We're doing the usual. It is episode 8. Brewed some Luna coffee recently. Oof, so good. Luna, Alan, yes, perfect. All right, guys, so we are talking about the French press. Why the French press? The French press is probably the most common home brewer for the average coffee drinker. You have the coffee machine and then you have a French press. Now, this is a little guy. This is probably a 400 gram, 1 cup type of thing. We've already got our 20 grams in here. We're going to move the camera in a second, but we're going to talk about why it's important to know what you're brewing, right? So we have a French press, which is commonly used. It's a saturation process where you saturate the coffee grounds for an amount of time, and then you obviously you press it. That's the press part, and this is just kind of putting a filter. It's just a little mesh filter, if you can see it here. It's just a little mesh filter that is blocking the grounds. It's not meant to provide a really clean cup versus a paper filter. But it is reliable on removing the top, you know, the little part, the bigger particles. It's good at doing that. With the French press, you are going to get a more full-bodied cup of coffee. Okay, that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about a clear cup. A clear cup is basically just less oils, less solubles, if that makes sense, because when there's solubles that are small, now filters can only filter out so many small microparticles. But when there are so many of them, those little particles, the unsoluble particles that make their way past a cup of coffee, past your filter, those will actually coat your tongue to block off your flavor receptors in a sense, okay? So you're not really fully tasting everything, you're just getting those little particles on your tongue. So I don't love the French press, but it is a very effective, timely brew method that's easy to do at home. You boil your water. You don't need a goose kettle, which we're going to go grab in a second. You don't need a goose kettle. You can just use an electric water boiler and pour it in. You let it sit for 4 minutes, and then you move it around a little bit, and then you let it sit for another 3 to 5 minutes. We're going to do a shorter brew time because my grind consistency is a little bit finer, so we don't want to over extract, okay? I have the same one. Stuart, nice, dude. Again, guys, if you're here, share the stream, tag some coffee lovers. This is something that we want to continually do. So we're going to go grab our Tyrone. Content. What's up, Tyrone? We're going to grab our kettle for this. So again, the French press, that's what we have going on today, the little thing here. And then we're going to show you kind of what we do to brew this consistently. Okay, guys? So let me go grab the boiler and everything, and then we're going to change camera angles. Blam Bloom. Okay, guys, so first, it's very important that you have a scale at home. Okay, if you have a scale, Tyrone, what up, KG? If you have a scale, let me know. If not, there's some recommendations. This is a Hario scale, which is fantastic. It's pretty standard in the coffee brewing world, but you can also just get a normal kitchen scale that brews, that weighs out grams, okay? So it's important that you have a scale, okay? So the scale provides consistency between every cup of coffee so that you can change your variables that you need to, okay? All right, so we're gonna put this on here. Now we have what's in our kettle here. Like I said, we do not need a gooseneck kettle for French press, which is nice. Okay, so we're gonna zero this out, and then this is about 20 grams of coffee, and we're gonna do 300 grams total. So that's about, again, a 1:16 ratio, or 1:15, I believe. So we're going to do that. And we're going to set our timer here to brew for 4 minutes. We're just going to pour it in there. Just let it fill up here. You're doing your total weight, okay? We're doing your total weight. We're at about 150. We're going to shoot for 300. Okay, we're at 200, 230. Again, this is a small guy, okay? Okay, we are at 300. Okay? We are at 300. So there's important things that are going on right now, okay? So right now, everything's being saturated and it's actually being lifted to the top, okay? So when we do cup tasting, which is you're brewing small little bowls of coffee to try, it forms kind of what's called like a crust, right? So this is the coffee and it's releasing gases and that sort of thing. We're gonna zoom in on the angle here. Okay, so that is the press that you're seeing there. Okay, so we're gonna let this brew. You're not gonna touch it. You're actually gonna walk away from it for 4 minutes. So if you're looking at your morning routine, you're boiling your water. It takes 6 minutes to boil, 7 minutes, depending on where you're at. You're boiling your water, you're getting ready, right? So this is the best way to brew coffee. If you're like, oh, I don't have time in the morning to brew coffee. This is one way to do it. So you boil the water, press a button. Okay, you get ready, water boils. You pour in your grounds, you saturate everything for about 4 minutes, you walk away, do something, and you come back. Okay, guys, so this is super important because this is something that can be done in the morning. People always tell me, oh, it's so hard to do coffee in the morning because there's so many things. The French press is probably the easiest and quickest way to make a cup of coffee if you space your time out, right? Okay, so we're about 2.5 minutes, and then at the 3-minute mark, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna break the crust here, and we're gonna skim off the top because there's all these little particles that we can actually scoop up that will save us on having to filter out with the little plunger thing. Because this is just, again, this is just a mesh filter, guys. This isn't anything crazy. It's just a mesh filter. Okay, guys, if you're here, say hello, like the stream, follow the stream. We got 6 reactions on the board. Tyrone with the last like, and Alan, I appreciate it, guys. If you have questions, let me know. Seriously, let me know. As this is brewing, have questions, we can answer, okay? What we're brewing here is a Papua New Guinea from Wasatch Roasters, lemon drop buttermilk flavor to it, which is actually pretty good. Haven't brewed a French press in a long time, but we're gonna stick to this recipe. So again, 315, okay, 3.5 here. What we're gonna do, you wanna take your spoon, and you're actually going to mix it a little bit, because what that's going to do is actually going to cause all of the coffee to sink to the bottom, which is what we want. Okay, so now if I switch the camera here, you see that what you're seeing is all of these little coffee particles at the top. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take our spoon, and we're gonna skim off the top to get rid of those little particles that are floating to the top, because there are some particles that aren't gonna sink, they're gonna float. So let's do that right now. We want to start the conversation, Tyrone, of coffee brewers, because people drink coffee and there's an incredible way to do it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, you can see here, we're actually gonna skim all of this off the top. We're just gonna remove it because those are little particles that you don't have to do this, but this is gonna add to a cleaner tasting cup. Okay, you don't want to disturb it too much. You want to grab it. It's easier with 2 spoons, but we have a coffee spoon here, which is basically just a wide mouth spoon. If you can see it, it's just wider. And we're just getting rid of these little foamy buddies here. Okay, and this is at the 5-minute mark, so we're gonna give it another 3 minutes. And what's gonna actually happen is that those big particles that were up here are now all going to sink naturally. Okay, so the reason why you want to give it time to sink again, for 2 reasons. Okay, we're sinking it down so that it's easier to filter when we use our little press part here. But 2, you do not want to drink your coffee hot. This is still probably 190, 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which is way too hot. I don't care what you say, you're not tasting anything when it is that hot. Okay, so we're gonna let this sit for another 3 minutes. So you go finish your morning routine, do some dishes, do something, because when this is done, this will be cool enough where it will be more drinkable and you'll be able to taste more. Okay, so that's one thing. I'm definitely gonna start buying some coffee things. This is actually really cool. Tyrone, dude, hit me up. I know you're in where are you at? I don't remember. I think you're in the UK or you are in Australia. You're in the Europeans. Let me know where you're at, bro, and I'll send some links and stuff for simple stuff like this and simple brewers, okay? So again, we're gonna let this sit at 630 for another minute and a half or so, and then we're gonna plunge it, and I'm gonna show you, because what's key is that you do not want to disturb all this settlement right here, okay? It's starting to really settle down, and that's gonna help you get a better cup of coffee, not all these little fine particles like we talked about in the beginning. Again, guys, if you have questions, let me know. We're just trying to spark a conversation about coffee. I love coffee, and there's so many good coffee roasters out there that are brewing high quality cups of coffee that'll seriously change your coffee game. I've had so many friends that I've been able to share coffee with, and it has been so fun to hear them say, like, I can't drink Keurig anymore, I can't drink McDonald's anymore. What you showed me is just so good, and the coffee is so delicious. Do you order your coffee online or local supplier? So that is a great question. I'm gonna freaking widen this out. Stuart, so I buy both. I buy locally and I buy out of state, because there's only a handful, not even a handful, there's only 2 or 3 local places in Utah that have beans that I find just delicious, right? There's maybe one right now, Blue Copper Coffee Roasters, outstanding. They're local. Patrick, who roasts the coffee, he is like freaking a genius, and he's been doing it for around 7-8 years maybe, and he has produced and brings in really high quality coffee. Okay, and then there is Wasatch. They're more local to my city, and they're all right. This is what we're brewing, but this is all we have around the house, but it's still a really good, decent cup, okay? There are places, Stuart, I believe you are in Ireland, right? Is it you that's in Ireland, Stuart? Let me know where you're at, Stuart. Let me know where you guys are all at, because chances I know a coffee roaster that's locally to you that actually roasts a really good cup of coffee. I've had coffee from all around the United States that have been incredible. I've had coffee from Australia that's fantastic. From Norway, that's like blow your mind cup of coffee type of thing. Scotland, that's where you're from. Ooh, don't want to make those two up. We're good. Scotland. So let me do some research for you, Stuart, and find a coffee roaster, because there is specialty coffee in just about all around the world. This isn't just a local thing in the United States. This is worldwide. They have competitions and they brew coffee, and there's roasters that focus on quality. That's the biggest thing. Okay, guys? So we're at about our 9-minute mark. We're going to switch to our coffee camera here. Okay, so now that we've reached our time, what we're going to do, so if you can see here, I don't know if you can actually see it. There is a darker layer. There's a darker layer here. It's probably about a little less than an inch that of all of our settlement, which is what we want. So now when we put this in, we do not want to disturb this. People commonly will just put this in and plunge it all the way down until it's nice and tight. But what that's actually going to do is going to bloom up those small particles past this little filter, the little mesh filter, which isn't really doing much, but it does enough for what we need. Okay, so we want to be careful with that. So what you're going to do here, you're going to line this up, and you're going to slowly go down until you're just right on top of it. Okay? Because we don't want to cause such a crazy amount of agitation. That's what it's called, right? Agitation, moving of particles and stuff. I sent you a PM with my new blend I got. Oh, sweet, man. See, and you're sharing. If you have coffee that you're brewing, share it in the messages. Okay, that's what the goal is. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, since this is done, we can go ahead and move this carefully. Another common mistake people do is that they're gonna pour their coffee fast. That's gonna move everything. We actually want to pour things slow so that we don't move so many particles. Okay. Now, like I said, the French press, it's just a heavier body cup of coffee, okay? That's not a bad thing. It's just a way to describe coffee and the mouthfeel of it, okay? So when you're tasting coffee, think about it if it's heavy, or if it feels like it's heavy on the tongue. It's probably more oily and more clouded, right? So it's not a bad thing. If you look at this, it's very clouded, but it's just because the oils are still there, which is fine. If we brew this in a V60 and we filter it correctly with the filtered paper filter, this will look like tea. It'll look like an amber color of coffee, right? So that's just the different brew types in different ways, okay? So we're gonna let this brew. We're gonna put the camera back where it belongs, up top there, and then we're gonna talk briefly a little bit more, some closing notes. you have questions, we'll probably list this brew method. It's just really simple, just to get a cup of coffee. It's all about quality of beans.